Chapter 28, Reunion and Reconciliation. We arrived at Castle Black nearly a month after our arrival in White Harbor. On our trek north, we stayed in small hamlets, the keeps and castles of minor and high lords, and even a brief days in Winterfell. Now that we were finally arriving, the wall greeted us by looming in the distance. It was a grand spectacle of towering ice, fog banks of cold clouds drifting around its side, with wood and metal scaffolding clawing up its side. Castle Black rested like a staunch guard dog, ready to chase off anyone who approached. The procession of troops, guards, and support personnel in our train numbers in the thousands, and trailed behind us for nearly a mile. Sir Barristan, Robert, and Sandor rode ahead of us, while Sir Oakwood and Sir Greenfield flanked us on either side, and John and Sir Moore rode behind us. I rode in the center of the Queensguard formation, with Tyrion to my left, Ned to my right, and several lords who had deigned to join us, including Sir Wylus Manderley, who rode out as proctor for his father, Lord Howland Reed, Lord Roose Bolton, Stannis, who had come for another purpose only he and few others among us were aware, and several others who rode hard to join our party. Shireen rode close by, given a special place just behind me as my ward. The men of the Night's Watch stood out in front of Castle Black in formation. Officers were, and rangers were mounted on their horses. They were showing respect to the first monarch who had visited the wall in generations. Just by coming this far north, they understood that I was acknowledging them as a key point of importance and defense to the realm. A smile made its way to my face when I saw that father was waiting for us next to Sir Jorah Mormont, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. As the Queensguard parted for me to approach Lord Mormont and father, the two men bowed their heads. "Your Grace," Lord Mormont said, "it has been an age since the king has come to the wall. It is my greatest honor to welcome you." "The honor is mine, Lord Commander," I replied and bowed my head respectfully. The men of the Night's Watch are among the most admirable men in the kingdom, giving their lives to safeguard us from the threats beyond the wall. It is a pity that kings before me did not choose to come here at least once to acknowledge your service. I could see Robert stiffen a bit out of the corner of my eye. "We received your message," Father said in a professional manner. "As instructed, all ranging has been suspended. Benjon Stark delivered your letter to Mance Rayder. His forces are already camped within the tree line a mile out from the wall." I smiled at him and slipped from my horse. I was moving the moment my feet touched the ground. My smile invited him to dismount as well so that when I reached him, we could enjoy a loving embrace between father and daughter. "It's good to see you, Father," I said, as I tucked my head against his chest. "I've missed you, my girl," he replied as he hugged me close. As we parted from the hug, I looked up at Lord Mormont. "I trust he's been helping out?" Mormont chuckled. "He's a fine addition to our ranks, Your Grace." "You should seen how much energy he had when we found out you would be visiting us." "A father is always delighted to see his daughter after so long," Father replied. "Well then, shall we discuss matters before we meet with Mance Rayder?" I asked. "Indeed, Your Grace," Mormont nodded. "Please, follow me." He waited until I mounted my horse once more before leading us into the castle. Ned moved a bit further away from me, allowing Father to take his place so that we could talk as we rode into the keep. Once the nobles and the Queensguard had entered the castle's courtyard, the men of the Night's Watch entered after us, leaving the rest of the train of people that had traveled with us to enter or begin setting up camps outside of the castle's walls. Mehrunes, Triana, and Aelfric flew overhead, heading to the top of the wall, where Mehrunes would begin to coordinate them into patrolling the area. Mormont led us into their galley, where a table had been prepared so that we could sit and discuss matters before going out to meet with Mance and his people. I took a spot at the head of the table, with Mormont sitting to my right and Ned sitting to my left. Once the others had found a place to sit, I began the meeting. I looked at Mormont. You said Mance was ready to meet. I trust your men understand that it is my decree that we will be welcoming the wildlings past the wall? Mormon let out a hesitant sigh and nodded. They do, Your Grace. Many of them do not approve of this choice, but they will obey. Do they need to be reminded of their oaths? I asked, and tapped the arm of my chair pointedly. They vow to be the shields that guards the realms of men. The wildlings are still men, regardless of what some people might think. You'll find no argument from me, Your Grace, Mormont replied. And you'll hear none from my men, but many have lost brothers and comrades in arms to the wildlings, others still, family. As have the wildlings to the Night Watch and the men of the North, I countered. We are here to strengthen the realm against the coming danger and keep the North stronger than we left it. Father leaned forward. Then, you believe the talk of the White Walkers? I nodded. I know it to be a fact. We cannot leave the wildlings to become soldiers in the army of the dead, simply because we've had issues with them. This will be a battle between life and death, and we need as many living swords as we can get. I want you to direct your men to help the Baratheon men unload their packs, I directed Mormont. They are carrying weapons for every man of the watch. I want them to begin practicing with these weapons and use them exclusively. Mormont stared at me curiously. May I ask what type of weapons they might be? Dragon glass weapons, Stannis answered. They'll hold up in a fight, and the Queen has said that they will kill the dead with a single stroke. I've also brought the new bows that I've begun issuing to the royal army, I added, as well as enough arrows for each man in the watch to have 200 each. You think we'll get the chance to use that many? Mormont asked. If nothing else, I'd rather you have too much ammunition than not enough, I replied. Also, I need you to send men to every castle along the wall. Your men will need to begin repairing and fortifying them. I have sent word to the royal army to begin sending men to the castles to help man them. They will help defend the castles along with wildling volunteers. Mormont arched a doubtful brow. Does Mance know about these volunteers? He will, I replied. And he will agree because he knows what they're running from. We'll all have to fight this enemy eventually. We may as well do it in the most fortified place in Westeros. What of my brother? Ned asked. What if this Mance Raider has harmed or killed him? I doubt that he's stupid enough to allow anything to happen to your brother, Lord Stark, I answered. However, if he has been harmed or killed, I will promise you justice, and I will personally do what I can to make amends to you, since it was by my command that he was sent to deliver my terms. Ned's gaze was firm, but respectful, as he gave a short nod. Fair enough. A knock at the door came, followed by a member of the Night's Watch, who entered. Lord Commander, Your Grace, they're waiting for you outside the tree line. Have the horses brought to the gate, Mormont responded as he stood. I stood, and the others followed my lead. We followed Mormont out of the galley and through the castle to the gate that led to the tunnel through the wall. The gate was nearly 20 feet tall and was so wide that 3 wagons could pass through it side by side. As we approached the gate, I looked back at the others. Everyone other than the Queen's Guard will leave their weapons here. I do not want them to see us coming ready for a fight. Your Grace, Serena began to dissuade me, playing her part to perfection. She knew I was going to give this command, and we had planned for her to protest. No, Lady Cousland, I shook my head. I understand your concerns, but we need to send the right message. Alan chimed in. At least, allow the Lord Commander to keep his sword, my queen. It is a symbol of his authority, and the wildlings should be reminded of his station when he appears. Again, a prepared suggestion, designed so that Mormont could be seen as the opposition to the wildlings. I looked up at Mormont and gave him a nod. Very well. Lord Commander, you may keep your weapon. Everyone else must give theirs. Once everyone had passed their weapons to watchmen, the gate was raised, and we began to make our way through the tunnel. The air was still and cool, the chill radiating from the ice that surrounded us. It was a refreshing change from the constant skin-biting cold that the wind in the north relentlessly battered us with. I took the reprieve gratefully until we emerged on the opposite side of the wall a few minutes later. Wide, open, snow-covered ground that stretched out for a mile beyond the gate greeted us. The tree line of a dense forest broke up the landscape, and a few dozen men standing just outside of the trees marked our destination. As we approached the group of men, I focused on Mance. He was a tall man with graying brown hair, shrewd brown eyes, and a face marked by time and experience. He had a shrewd air about him and wore his confidence easily. Beside him stood Benjamin Stark, alive and well. Mance stepped forward as we pulled our horses to a stop, his eyes fixed on me. "I take it that you are Queen Merida?" "I am," I nodded. "And you must be Mance Raider. I must thank you for keeping Benjamin Stark alive." "I may be many things, your grace, but I am not foolish," Mance replied. "You sent an envoy offering peace and an escape from what hunts us. The offer was too good to dismiss. So of course, as a gesture of goodwill, he was treated well." I smiled. "We appreciate that. As does the First Ranger, I'm sure." "I do, indeed," Benjamin remarked. "Shall I present my terms to you now, or would you rather sit somewhere and discuss them?" I asked Mance. Mance nodded. "We've prepared a place to talk. Your Queen's Guard may remain near, but they may not enter." "That's fair," I replied. "However, I also have a stipulation." "And what might that be?" "Your wargs will leave the direwolf and my dragons alone," I said. "If my mage so much as senses them trying, all negotiations will cease, and I will solve our mutual problem in a much less diplomatic way." Mance looked at me hard, understanding the threat. "I will have the word pass along." He looked at one of the clan chiefs and motioned for him to let their people know. "Shall we proceed?" Mance looked up at me. "Lead the way," I nodded. Mance led us into the woods, where I could spot a number of scouts and lookouts, hiding behind trees and up in their branches. My stone sense told me there were others who were laying on the ground, covered in snow, as well. When we reached the edge of the main encampment, thousands of eyes were on us. Men, women, and children wearing rags, leathers, and furs with various clan markings stared at us as we rode by. Not far from the hut Mance was leading us to were a collection of giants tending to their mammoths. I smiled wide at the sight of them and marveled at finally seeing giants in person. For all the wonders I had seen so far, giants hadn't been one of them. We entered the hut and were welcomed to sit around a fire. The inside of the hut was comfortably warm compared to the chilling air outside of it. It was still cold, terribly cold for my tastes, but it was better than nothing. Once we were seated, Mance looked at me. "Well, your grace, we'll hear your offer." I sighed. "You and I both know that the majority of your people will agree with whatever stipulations I put on them entering my realm. However, as I would like to save as many of you as possible, I am offering your people land to tend to and allies to keep them safe." "Lord Stark," I said as I motioned to Ned, "has agreed to offer your people a large swath of land to settle in. He will guarantee that no one moves against you so long as you ensure that your people do not attack or pillage from others. We've had food and building supplies brought in to help you begin preparing permanent homes and facilities for your people. In exchange, our queen requires that half of your fighting men be offered to man the castles along the wall, alongside the Night's Watch and Royal Army," Serena added. "And once this fighting is done, at least a quarter of those men must volunteer to serve in the Royal Army." "What is the point of taking our fighting men after the battle against the dead is completed?" Mance asked, paranoia creeping into his tone. "The Queen's focus is on uniting the realm into a single country," Ned replied for me. "The Royal Army consists of men from every kingdom whose priority is the realm, not loyalty to a single house or a single liege lord. If your people desire a home within my lands, in her realm, then it is only right that they help to defend it. The dead are not the realm's only enemies," I added. There are enemies without and enemies within that we must defend against. That is the point of the royal army, to safeguard the realm, to ensure unity for the sake of the people, not for the power of any single house. Your people will be welcome into Westeros, so they should do their part to protect it. Mance considered the answers be nodding. Very well. Are there any other stipulations? Your wargs and greenseers, Alan said. We will want them to help teach those in the north who have the aptitude how to do the same. There are many still in the north with the blood of the Andals, and we want them to reach their full potential. That's asking a great deal, Mance replied. There is bad blood between my people and the men of the north. They will not appreciate teaching the people who have... I held a hand up to stop his response. I won't hear that argument. The thief cannot complain when the owner of the home he's robbing defends himself. Nor can they begrudge the man after the fact. Do not use bad blood as a reason for what your people will or won't do. There is bad blood on both sides, and Lord Stark's people are making the concessions regardless. If your people cannot do the same, then that only serves to further enforce the opinions people already hold of them. There was a moment of indignation on Mance's part, like he wanted to deny his people's role in the feud between them and the North. Yet he pushed it aside, accepting it the reasoning. Is there anything else? The Giants, I said. We would like to welcome them south as well. We understand that they prefer to keep to themselves, so we've set aside some space close to the mountains for them. It's not required that they settle there, but we thought they would appreciate a space that few people tread to begin with. That's not exactly a stipulation, Mance replied. No, it isn't, I agreed. It's simply to point out that we are taking consideration of everyone's preferences with this offer. You should also note that we are not requiring that they help defend the wall or the realm. Why is that? Mance asked. Sure, you understand how powerful they would be in a battle. We also understand that they are few in number, Serena replied. A few hundred at best. If they wish to aid in the fight, they will. But with such small numbers, we do not feel right asking them to risk the few members they have. Mance seemed to appreciate the reasoning and gave a nod. I understand. Shall I take that to mean there are no other stipulations? That's correct, I said. If your people accept, they will be welcome past the wall in one day's time. Those who do not agree will not be welcome, and will be met with force if they try to force their way through, or scale the wall. You'll only give us a day to decide? Mance asked. That's very little time. Good leaders shouldn't need an hour to decide what's best for their people, I countered. Giving you a day may as well be giving you a year. I offer safety, peace, resources, and allies. All I ask is that they help defend their new home, don't attack their new neighbors, and share their knowledge. If we're being honest with each other, those who don't agree are better left behind anyway. We left the hut soon after. Mance had out terms and would have to deliver them to his people. That night was a tense one for the Night's Watch, as they observed the campfires of the wildlings. By the time dawn broke the next day, we could see small camps beginning to break away from the hole. Some headed east, others west, but none of them went back north. By the end of the day, tens of thousands of wildlings had left the gathered host. Still, the morning of the next day, well over 100,000 wildlings were allowed to pass through the wall. Those who didn't agree to our terms would no doubt still attempt to make their way south some other way, but disparate bands of a few thousand each would have no chance at breaking through even partially manned castles on the wall. In the end, our estimations on how many wildlings were accurate, and we were able to deny a large portion of bodies from the army of the dead.